Okay, for this epidemiology lecture number 2, we're going to talk about the comparison of the Pima and the Tarahumara. Now, they both are demographically matched populations and were together near each other in the past. In 1848, Mexican-American War, they got separated. The Pima went into the Arizona area and they eat the standard American diet. They used to be very healthy like the Tarahumara. There's pictures of them from the 1800s. And then what happened is, once they ate the standard American diet, the Pima have tremendous obesity, tons of diabetes. And I drew this cartoon here, picture, to just show these are common things. Every doctor that works with inpatients sees this stuff all day long, every day. So there's a midline scar for the coronary artery bypass graft. We call that a cabbage. There's a right upper quadrant scar, It's a typical scar for gallbladder removal. That's called a cholecystectomy. Right lower quadrant is an appendectomy scar for taking out the appendix. Left lower quadrant scar for sigmoid resection for diverticulitis. And then there's an amputation stump below the knee there. BKA is below knee amputation. So I mention this because persons who eat an unhealthy diet, that continue the standard American diet after 40, they quite often end up going for multiple surgeries. And, I've had a lot of people say to me, I don't want to worry about what I eat. I just want to enjoy life. Well, it's not that enjoyable being sick or having to go for surgery. Surgery is kind of painful. And in addition, it can be very expensive. Coronary artery bypass graft can cost $50,000 to $100,000. So that's a big part of why people go bankrupt as they get older, is from medical expenses. So the best way to minimize these costs is to avoid these diseases by eating a healthy diet. And then here for comparison is the Tarahumara. Now the Tarahumara are world famous runners. They eat mostly corn, beans, and squash. They're located in northern Mexico in the Sierra Madre Mountains, Copper Canyon. They're very famous as runners, ultramarathoners. There was a book written about them called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. In addition, the famous runner, triathlete, cancer survivor Ruth Heydrich, she went out to northern Mexico to visit them, and other runners have gone out to visit them. They're very much for real. Nathan Pritikin was fascinated by them. They have incredible endurance. They're known for being able to run 500 miles in 5 days. So that's the difference between eating healthy and not eating healthy. It's the most important thing for health because it's what keeps the arteries open. They got these guys running 100 miles at a time, and then you got these other poor persons who filled up their arteries with fat, with lipid, and they're a mess. Okay, they got decreased blood supply to all their tissues. Why do they get appendicitis? We talked about that with abdominal pressure syndrome and the work of Burkitt. Fiber attracts water into the stool, liquefies it. So when you have a lack of dietary fiber, the stool's dried out on the right side, you'll tend to form these hard rocks of stool, appendical lifts they're called. Lift means stone. And they'll obstruct the appendix. The mucus glands from beneath continue to secrete mucus, and they can't get out because the appendix ostium, where it connects to the cecum, the bottom part of the colon, is obstructed by the appendical lift, and so it just stretches in pain, and then it'll burst. That's appendicitis. Gallstones are due to supersaturation of the bile with cholesterol, so they're from a high-fat diet. That's what gallstones are from. Coronary artery bypass graft for coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis. Okay, and much better to just prevent coronary artery disease with your diet than to have to go for big surgery. Surgery is pretty serious stuff. Okay, sigmoid resection, very common for diverticulitis. Anybody who works in a big hospital has at least one patient admitted every day for diverticulitis. Back pressure straining at the stool causes outpouching of the colonic wall, and those diverticuli can burst, and then stool is leaked into the abdomen. That's called diverticulitis. Below knee amputation. Diabetics get the most amputations by far. It's real sad. It's because they get microvascular disease. If you get a blockage, like a smoker will often get aortoiliac blockage. You could bypass that. You could maybe stent it. But when you get blockages down in the foot and the small distal vessels, there's nothing to bypass to. So diabetics get tons of amputations. Okay, I got a word slide to go with this too. Okay, a couple other thoughts on the Pima and the Tarahumara. In addition, there's a researcher went out there, William Carroll, and another researcher, Sarkaria, something like that. And what they found was they don't have any high blood pressure. They don't have any coronary artery disease. Average cholesterol in one study was 136. In other studies, I've heard it much lower, but it's in that ballpark, 120 to 136. Average triglycerides about 115. Their diets, and almost in the ballpark of a typical plant-based, low-fat plant-based diet, 80-10-10. Theirs came out here, according to this one study, 75-13-12. So 75% carbohydrate, 13% protein, and fat about 12%. So anyways, that's a great contrast. If you just type in your internet browser, Pima Tarahumara, you'll see comparison pictures of them. It's pretty obvious. It's not just the fastest guy who's a Tarahumara who can run, 100 miles or 500 miles in 5 days. It's all of the guys can do that, okay? They're incredibly healthy, and they have incredible endurance. And Nathan Pritikin specifically said he wanted to pattern his diet after the Tarahumara because of their incredible endurance. So that's it.